Hello my friends, it is Sarah the itty bitty Celtic witch, and today I wanted to do sort of the video chat version of my latest blog post, Learning Green Witchcraft, Where to Begin. So earlier this year I made a video, 5 signs that you might be a green witch. I'll link to it up here in the corner. And I had quite a few comments on it throughout the year about how to start out, about different ideas around what green witchcraft is, and sort of the beginner's idea of where to go, what to do when there's so much information out there. So I thought I'd make this video just sort of a general beginner look at some key thoughts, key suggestions on where to begin when you're starting out, how to really get in touch with your green magic, get in touch with that green witchcraft energy. So I did write this out as a blog post, so if you see me looking down here, I'm just referring to it. I'm just saying hello little blog post, because it's always good to have refreshers for your memory, right? So anyways, that link will also be down below. That is what I was going to say, and then I got totally distracted. So my first tip is going to be perhaps an obvious one, but head outdoors. If you're really interested in green witchcraft, if you're interested in learning about green magic, about nature magic, about earth magic, really the best way to start learning is to go outside and be in nature. And now this is going to mean a lot of different things for a lot of different people. I live in a city, and I sort of discovered my green magical path while living in a city, in different cities that I've lived in. So for me, connecting with nature has very much been about searching for it within the city, among the buildings, dealing with the car noises and the everyday realities of being in a city. Not that they're necessarily a bad thing, but they are realities, right? We are surrounded in cities by a lot of concrete buildings, by a lot of, depending on what city you're living in, a lot of skyscrapers, a lot of sidewalks. So for me, as a city living witch, I have had to very much explore natural elements as they occur throughout the city. So this has meant a lot of connecting and relishing in local parks, in the greenery around the building where I live, around the trees that line the streets. Even if I can't get to a park on a regular basis, I do have the rather blessing of walking through a really lovely park fairly often. But sometimes that's not always a thing. So connecting with the trees on the streets, noticing what types of trees are planted there. There's a lot of magic in learning about the trees that are growing on the sides of the streets, about learning about perhaps the plants that are planted in the planters. If your city does flowers and planters. If you're in the countryside, of course, this is going to take a totally different path for you, because you're not perhaps walking down sidewalks every day where there's trees and that's your main connection with nature. Perhaps you're out in a field, perhaps you're connecting by visiting a beach. It really depends on your local geography as to what going outside, getting in nature means. But at the same time, finding what that means for you is a really great foundation for a green magical practice. And that is also not to say that you have to be out there all of the time, because sometimes it doesn't make sense. Whether it's 1,000,000 degrees outside, or it's absolutely freezing and it's just too cold, or perhaps it doesn't necessarily fit into your schedule. We all have a lot going on, right? It's not about sort of becoming a person who lives outside. You don't need to be outside all of the time. Going outside for a breath of fresh air can even help reconnect you with spirit, help reconnect you with the earth around you, and re-immerse you in what natural magic is. So if you only have 5 minutes, or that's all sort of you feel the need to begin with, then that is absolutely fine and amazing. Just head outside, feel the breeze on your face, maybe even while you're walking home or commuting wherever you happen to be. take that time to just sort of appreciate nature. And as you spend more time outside, you'll find out within spirit, within your intuition, what being around those plants, around those trees, around the natural world, feeling the wind on your face, what that means to you and what that means to your practice. Because it's going to be something that's in some ways very similar. We all often find peace around nature and calm in nature, but for you there might be some other things coming through, and that's totally awesome. So there are definitely individual aspects that your own spirit will uncover and explore as you make time to engage with the natural world around you. Number 2, or my second tip, tend to your plants or get a plant. I'm not saying you have to be a green thumb, because that was a concern on the other video that you had to be a perfect green thumb to be a green witch. You absolutely do not. It is a learning journey. I have overwatered plants, I have underwatered plants, I have not fertilized them enough, I have had plants get sick, I've tried to save them. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. It's really a learning journey. So by tending to your plants, I'm not saying that you need to be a perfect gardener or anything by any means. It's more so about making the effort to learn, to discover what the different plants require. My bonsai tree likes a different amount of water than my Norfolk pine tree. All of my outdoor plants, which are out there right now, my tomatoes, they like different things than my sage plant. Some like their soil a little bit more dry, some like their soil a little bit more wet. And it's all about learning and exploring that whole green world and re-immersing yourself in creating that connection, because with such a close access to grocery stores, a lot of our connection can sometimes be muted with nature because we're not out there, at least in my life. I mean, it may be different in yours if you live on a farm or you have a vegetable garden of your own, but oftentimes we're not reliant on the food that we grow as our sole source of food for the winter, per se. So making that effort to connect with plants and bring them into your home can really help re-ground you, reroute you to the natural magic that does exist in our earth. I can tell you it has been absolutely amazing growing tomatoes this summer. This is the first time I have ever grown them from seed before, and I have one red tomato. The rest are green right now. I've got one red tomato. You can see it on my Instagram. And there's one that's kind of turning red. And it's just been a really amazing process just watching it grow. Even just on that level of nurturing it, of watering it, of knowing when it's too hot and it needs more water, or it's been a bit damp and rainy, so I don't need to water it. The rain has taken care of that. Just really engaging with that whole learning process of gardening is a really great way to start on your witchcraft journey into green magic. My next tip is to become aware of your pantry. So there are a lot of herbs available in witchy stores, and I absolutely love going into witchy stores. They are just simply enchanting. But it's also important to realize that the herbs in your pantry, in your kitchen, they are absolutely as magical as herbs purchased from a magical shop. So I do most of my practice with herbs that I've either wildcrafted, I've gathered outside, herbs, flowers, from my own garden. I have a bunch of chives drying right now, and also from things in my kitchen, like this. This is from David's Tea. If you're Canadian, you're gonna recognize. Oh, it's in America too now. That's right. You might recognize this tin. It is. It's their herbal tea color of tin because I wanted it to match. So this is a tin of peppermint tea. It's just straight peppermint leaves. I think they're organic as well. And this is one of my favorite healing magic things. It is literally tea, it is peppermint leaves, but that's the thing, it's not just tea, right? Those peppermint leaves, they grew from the earth. They have healing and soothing properties, and they're really, really calming. I find that if I'm really stressed or anxious, that the thing to do is a cup of peppermint tea. hot cup of peppermint tea or iced peppermint tea. Both are simply divine and I love them, and I could talk about peppermint tea all day. My main point is to familiarize yourself with the ingredients you already have in your pantry, what their metaphysical properties are, what their health properties are. All of those different things can play into weaving together a practice of green witchcraft. And then my final tip, which it might seem a little bit random, but it is that you need to embrace witchcraft and green witchery as an ever growing and ever learning journey. I know myself that I will be learning different things about green magic all throughout my life. There is so much material out there to simply learn, whether it's learning about the herbs in your pantry, whether it's learning season by season how to garden, or nurturing plants within your home when it's wintry outside. Just embracing that whole natural seasonal progression, even being aware of the seasons. There's always new realizations coming through. There's always new energy sort of being unraveled. So very much so, green witchcraft is an ever learning journey. So don't stress out if you're just beginning on the path and you're like, oh my goodness, I need to complete A through Z to say that I am a green witch. You're going to be completing A through Z through your whole life, and maybe jumping back and forth and going to random letters and spots, and as new things really intrigue you and you're inspired by different elements of spirit calling to you. So embrace that it's an ever-learning journey. Don't stress out if you don't have all of the green witchcraft books right now. I don't. My library and my reading is always changing, always learning, always groaning. I don't realize the book's grown, but that makes me think of that Harry Potter monster book that runs across the floor. Can you imagine how cool that would be if we had books that came to life? Maybe not ones that bit us like the one in Harry Potter. I'm just imagining it going across. But anyways, distraction. It's an ever-learning journey. It's an ever-growing journey. And so accept that it's okay if you don't know everything right now. You can be simply as greenly witchy, magical being just as you are today and as you're growing on your journey. So that is all for me today. If you have any questions, please do let me know in the comments below. I would love to read them, and I'm always happy to chat. And until next time, so very many blessings.